So according to the training of the cycle, we're reading Ekev this week. In the beginning of Ekev, it's kind of interesting that if you look in the Koran Tanakh, which has the Simanim, so we're in Siman Zion Ekev, and it ends right at the pasuk Ekev lo tishme'un b'kol Hashem Elokechem. You're going to lose out because you didn't Ekev, or what does Uncle say Chalaf? I think instead of or in payment for. It says Ekev tishmun etam mishpatim ha'eleh. So if you were to listen, here's what you're going to get. And we end the parasha, Ekev lo tishmun b'kol Hashem Elokechem, because you didn't listen to the voice of the Lord your God. Very interesting that's a perfect fitting place. This rare Ekev isn't written that it doesn't occur that often. This word, yet it's a nice bookend. Psicha ke'in chasim over there. And what's this part? Like I said, we have to learn Devarim because most people don't study in depth. So what should you notice in this week's parasha? Well, first the promise, and looking through history, and this one, what the Rambam mentions in Mor Nevuchim. Many of us have this idea, which is not far-fetched because it's explicit in the Midrash, and Rashi brings it, that Bnei Yisrael lived a completely miraculous existence in the wilderness. What I mean by completely miraculous, that the man was perfect, and they had flowing water from the well of Miriam, which was with them all the entire time. Right? There was a rock that just exuded water, and it created streams that divided the camps, and they had an infinite supply of drinking water wherever they went. And Dana and Kavo did their laundry for them basically and kept their clothes clean. Now there is a reason for the Medrash making these points, but the Rambam says how actually life in the Midbar was kind of hard, and they had to go place to place looking for water. There's no pasuk that says that they had an infinite supply of water all the time. As a matter of fact, if you look in the psukim, it seems that they had to sometimes buy water. They had to go to places where they could stock up on water, fill up all the canteens, and hope for the best. And something interesting, Dr. England and I found this just in a discussion that came up. They used to eat what was called the mun. What's the feminine form of the word mun? Mana. And what does mana mean in biblical Hebrew and in modern Hebrew now? What's a mana? A mana is a portion of something. This is the part of the korban that Moshe Rabbeinu was told to eat. That's for you to eat. A mana is nowadays, if you want one falafel in a pita, that's one mana, one portion. People have to portion out food. And mishloach manot, obviously, shalach manis. So that's sending portions of food. And nowadays in Hebrew it also means a dose. Okay? If you're talking about medication, so a mana is one dose of, I don't know, whatever it is. And here, of course, they don't even have Tylenol. You know what they call it? They call it by its non-generic name is acamol, or I say whack-a-mole, and or they call it by the other scientific name, paracetamol, which is just another name for acetaminophen. And so that's the word mana. So man is the masculine form of the word mana. And the way he said it is that the man is basically what they were supposed to get. It's just enough for them. Like everybody got their portion. So everybody got his own mana of man. Okay, just the perfectly portioned out food. It means that you never had like extra man. Let's say you wanted to have a feast. So they had some cattle they could potentially have killed. They could have slaughtered it, and in the desert they didn't have to slaughter. They could just kill it any way they wanted. The rules of kosher slaughter were not yet in effect. The rule was if they wanted to slaughter any animal, they had to bring it to the Mishkan and make it a korban. But how often were they eating their animals? Not like they had permanent existence. So if they did that, but it's not like they could farm vegetables where they were. Even if they could, they were stopped in a place, let's say even for a year. It's not, they could have picked up and gone at any moment. So what's the point of farming vegetables? Making yourself a vegetable patch if you don't even know how long you're going to be staying around. So they ate wild things. And the Rambam says this more in Nevuchim, that it was actually a tough existence in order to develop the new type of Jew. Why? The Israelites who left Egypt were not prepared to fight. The first generation, they might have been very committed to God, which they were. Zacharti la chesed nurayich, like we said like last week. Avat kulutayich. Am Yisrael demonstrate great love for Hashem by following him out into the wilderness. However, they were still untrained. They were not strong. And Rambam says, like training people to be in the army, you don't give them a lot of food. They sleep on the ground outside, and they develop toughness. And their harsh existence in the wilderness was meant to toughen them up. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu is describing here. Why anecha, why yarivecha? He afflicted you and he starved you. What? Moshe Rabbeinu is saying this. Listen, read this pasuk. Read this really well. This is the one that Rambam brings, and it's lost on a lot of people. Not that anybody's doing anything wrong. It's just saying this is the part they love teaching because people skip over this part. Why anecha, why yarivecha? By the way, there's a segol. That means that's like a half a pasuk, but in this case, divided into thirds. He starved you, and he afflicted you, and he starved you. And he fed you the mun that you did not know, and that your fathers did not know. Well, they've grown up doing this. They've been eating the mun, it says, for 40 years. But what is the mun? Kind of mysterious, right? The Medrash has a lot to say about the mun, but the Psukim don't have much to say about the mun. They ground it up and they ate it, or they ate it as it was. But you can imagine, like they said, Bilti el money nenu. Most people, even if they had the most miraculous food, if it's the same thing every day, it gets kind of boring, right? It's not something that people eat normally. It's not people eat that even afterwards. It says you didn't know this. What's the point? You didn't know it because it's something that's unfamiliar to humans. Lema'an anoth. Hold on one second. I'm reading the pasuk before that. Lema'an hodiacha. In order to teach you what? Ki lo alechem levado yichya adam. Man does not live by bread alone. I remember our literary professor in college says, yeah, more to life. Man doesn't live by bread alone. He says you have to read some, good literature. Like, no, what's next to that verse in Deuteronomy? What does man live on? Ki al kol mosafi Hashem yichya adam. Whatever comes out of God's mouth, that's how you live. The previous pasuk says, he said, you should remember this entire path. That God has taken you along this path for the last 40 years. In order to afflict you and to test you. Okay? To test you. Really put you to the test. To see if you really trust him. Are you really going to keep the commandments even when things aren't good? Because if things are really good, it's easy to say, yeah, I love God. He gives me everything. It means they lived a meager existence. It says, but your clothes haven't worn out and your feet haven't become, I guess, parched or caked, batseka. Means like they have like dough on them, for the word batsek. So yes, their clothing was kept. And that's where the Medrash comes in. Yes, miraculous clothing that would even iron their clothing. You read about these, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's obviously divrei midrash. Okay, that's divrei midrash. But the point is that living in the desert was difficult. I say that it's not right. The proper Hebrew term for desert actually is even rarer in Hebrew. It's yeshimon. And midbar is more accurately translated as wilderness, at least.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.